Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track by an act by ISO Isa Raja titled I Gotta Stop. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on Spotify. It should also be noted that this song is on YouTube as well, and also that we have lyrics for this one, so it'll be good to read through those whilst we listen through the track. But we're gonna listen through this song from start till finish. I want to hear what we think. Let's go. Let's go. Let's do it. What do we got? Great to come in with those interesting automated parts on the guitars for the volume.
I wanna make you smile, smile till you laugh. I wanna ride with you, right till the end of day. Oh baby, hold me
Great
tight,
development, yeah.
may we enjoy this right till we die. Oh baby, I think I ride too fast and you fall along the way.
So we've got classical kind of foundational stuff going on here, or rather fundamentals being applied here. We've got gradual development to that sort of verse theme with instruments added as we go along here, additional layers to like the guitar parts, etc. You know, a great tone to the guitars, bass, and drums, and the vocals are nice and present in the mix, giving us a quick introduction to the story. It's a good start. Change here for the bridge. Great choice.
I think I gotta stop. Sorry, babe, I gotta stop. I think I gotta stop. Don't wanna hurt you, babe. I gotta stop. I wanna give you peace.
I want to give you peace. It's interesting. I've just noticed that I don't think the lyrics are necessarily syncing well to the track, which is a shame. That's more on Spotify, I think, than anything else. But I like the extra bit of oomph and that intensity there. So there were some nice octave chords on the lead guitar that were harmonizing well with the harmonies and the rhythm section. And there are various different chord progressions and bass lines per part of the track, which makes this composition more interesting to listen to, as opposed to the what I get a lot of nowadays, where it's the same four chords throughout the entirety of the song.
Peace that can calm your heart, but I think I'll wreck your heart. Since the ring she was out of reach. Oh baby, hold me tight, may we enjoy this right till we die. Oh baby, I think
I
ride too fast and you
think the lyric thing broke.
I think I gotta stop. Sorry, babe, I gotta stop. I think I gotta stop. Don't wanna hurt you, babe. I gotta stop. I think I gotta stop.
I mean, like, I did get parts of the verse, and I think I do have understanding what the track is about, but I like the fact that we've gradually offered more information as we've gone along. You don't think you got the full story until the end. It's smart lyricism. I mean, the vocals is a hot.
The wind that blows against my skin, it brings me peace. It catches your feet, you sneeze, feel the freeze. I think I gotta stop. Sorry, babe. I think I gotta stop. Oh, I think we gotta stop. Stop, 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 stop now. I think I gotta stop.
Yeah, cool.
Sorry, babe, I gotta stop now. Stop now. I think I gotta stop. Don't wanna hurt you, babe. I gotta stop now. Stop now. I think I gotta stop. Sorry, babe, I gotta stop now. Stop now. I think I gotta stop. Don't wanna hurt you, babe. I gotta stop.
Nice little bit of vocal fry there, nice. Yeah, I didn't really want to interrupt this one. Yeah, with previous reviews, I do try and pause per section if something occurs, but I think we kind of got the main idea of the track within the first minute. That's not a bad thing, and I know that may seem like I'm contradicting myself when I said that the story has been handled alongside, but I mean, like, I've gotten most of the instrumental bits as like the focus. Like, clearly, we'll go to the conclusion. Because this is the conclusion of my review of this track by Isa Raja titled I Gotta Stop. I think this track is about someone who is really into this other person, their sweetheart. They're really into them, but they just know it can't continue because someone is going to get hurt. It's just too ride or die, basically. It's just too intense. There's going to be some consequences, some negative consequences if they continue. I appreciate that. I think that's a cool story to tell. Because a lot of the time people seem to lack the awareness of knowing when to stop, when things are too sort of full on. And I think there's a lot of people that are going to be able to relate to this and to understand the situation they're discussing in the track. So I think the lyrics are cool and the story's good. The vocals as well were done really well. The guy sang really well. I'm unsure if English was his first language, and that's absolutely fine. The words came through clearly, the pronunciation was good. The vocal melodies and harmonies were great. Were there harmonies? There might have been very subtle ones. Predominantly, he was the main focus in the middle of the stereo field there. His head and chest voice was great. He suits this type of music, and I hope that he makes more of it if he hasn't already done stuff within this genre, because I think it works well for him. It seemed like he was really invested in the track, and it seemed like a very genuine, authentic performance. So I've absolutely no complaints about it whatsoever. He's just a great singer, and he sold the story to me. And especially at that last part of the song with the heaps of vocal fry, it sounded like there was a real kind of desperation and just a sadness, just almost a bitterness at what came from that, you know, as if he wished it could have been done differently. So I think, yeah, the vocals and story connect together well. The track itself, you know, at 3 minutes 43 is well within a 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. Well, not really well within. It fits within it. I don't think there was any filler in the track, but I usually like to talk about the theme first. So if we talk about the theme, how that connects to it, I think the sizzle of the overdriven guitars, as well as the variation in the drum grooves that helped to kind of illustrate the various emotions the guy was going through there, with going halftime like in the interlude sections, with the repetition of the I gotta stop, you know, and as like a sub-layer vocally, and like kind of like the thoughts swirling around his head. I think the instruments did sell the story to an extent. I think there could have potentially been a little bit more kind of angst and grit by using more kind of like edgy chords. But at the same time, I think that he was trying to make this as much of a single as his own story, given the kind of the verse, bridge, chorus structure to it. That follows a lot of tracks that when you want your song to pop and you want people to care about it. So I get it, and sometimes it can be a little bit off-putting if you do sort of like really edgy kind of power chords, like flat second chords or something like that, and they're just like to illustrate that. But I think to be a bit more succinct about it, basically, I think it was a sadness there, but he didn't want to oversell it. That's how I interpret the theme there through the different like octave chord parts there, the major and minor triads, and everything else going on in there. There weren't a lot of instruments outside of the guitar, bass, and drums as far as I could tell. I mean, the drums were nicely handled. There was variation, as I mentioned, in the grooves. Typically, it was like an 8th note focus, but you did occasionally have like halftime stuff where it would include some 16th note snares and all the offbeat and stuff like that. The bass line was pretty much sticking to the chord progressions the entire time and not wanting to sort of like go away from the root notes or the triads involved. The guitars there, we had some interesting shifts in the way they were played there. We had various chord progressions going on there. We didn't just stick with one to start, like the bridge I liked, because we didn't stick with a relative major or minor. We used something in there, so an alternative chord there, just to kind of surprise the listener and bring us out of like the kind of the situation we're in with that verse. It was a nice transition that snapped us out of it, and then bam, that chorus comes back in. That variation harmonically is something I really appreciate. I think that a lot of songs, again, if you have like a 1.5 to 2 minute track, you can maybe get away with the one chord progression per song. But here, you just have so much more flexibility if you can incorporate more than one. So I'm glad that we did that. The performances, there weren't a lot of different lead elements aside from the vocals. I feel as if we had space to make more utility out of like the guitars or whatever. It might have been cool to have had like a guitar solo or something like that here, just maybe in that interlude section. You could have potentially cut the interlude in half and then had like a solo going into that outro one, and maybe had the guitar kind of follow along in the background there to kind of elevate that last chorus to make it seem bigger before the finish. I know that's something that other songs have done, but I feel in this one was such an interesting sort of introduction, and the understanding of the development compositionally that's been shown and showcased. There was just, I would recommend doing that for future ones if possible, you know. Arguably with that minimalism, I think everything else in the composition was great. I don't think there was a note out of place. And I'm happy with how it was put together in general. I think the story matches the vocals. The vocals work well and harmonize well with the accompaniment. And generally it's a really nice sort of safe, interesting single. And it's a great first impression. Studio-wise, recording, you know, mixing and mastering, I'm happy with it. There was something that I noticed, and I think it was that there were parts where just the instruments didn't necessarily seem glued enough. And by that I mean that like it almost seemed like the guitars and the drums were different instruments. I'm wondering if that's because of a lack of like reverb in the mastering chain to try and bring them together, or maybe the bus compressor in the mastering chain wasn't like kind of like pushing enough to kind of get them to kind of smelt together. But like in some of the parts I thought the drum sounded a little bit too dry, and the guitar sounded like it was done in a different room or something like that. So that's more of just kind of like looking at the various elements, trying to sort of like smooth them together again with a bit more room reverb if we weren't using that. I know it's a delicate thing. Sometimes even if you don't want to do it in a mastering chain, you can go into the the individual channels and apply the exact same reverb, so it sounds like the same room, if that makes sense. Outside of that, I think that the instruments sounded great. I was happy with the drum tone, the bass, and guitar as well. The vocals had a fantastic presence to it. The leveling in general was good. I just think the gluing thing is more of a compression thing. There was dynamic range to this track as well, which I appreciate. You know, and things weren't the same loudness all the time. It was nice and wide around the stereo field as well, which was really, really cool. And, you know, all in all, you know, like things were layered nice in the frequency spectrum, and it was nice and loud without pumping, so limiting compression was handled. And I mean, basically, I think the double track, there might have been double tracking of the vocals in the chorus just to give them a bit of extra presence. I just feel as if I need to note that, which I enjoy as well. I like it when people make the vocals a bit more kind of... But I still feel that there could have been more oomph to go into the choruses than there was, but that just may be down to, again, maybe we wanted that smoothness. You know, it can be an aesthetic that we want. That's a stylistic thing, I suppose. But all in all, I'm very happy with this track. I know I've pointed a couple of things out that I feel could have been done differently, but that doesn't mean I think that they were done badly. These are just suggestions. This is my review of I Gotta Stop by Isa Raja. Hopefully you enjoy it. If you did, please do check out their Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.